Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Legacy Wrestling Season 1, Episode 9. It is me, Mikey, bro. We're just off the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view, and let's kick it off with Dakota Kai, Mickie James, and Vita Scott with a 79 total overall popularity. Just a little bit, but a little boost. Let's get into it here. Backstage, we open as the fans cheer loudly as Mickie James walks up. She walks up and down the hall, and Vita Scott approaches. Vita says, "Looking good, Mickie." Mickie says, "Thanks, Vita. It feels great." Mickie, last Saturday night at Bash at the Beach, you became the first ever Legacy Women's World Champion. It must feel great. Mickie says, "Truly. It feels absolutely incredible. I've been in the industry for a long time. I've worked hard and to get where I've gotten. It's a real blessing." The fans boo as Dakota Kai can be seen walking up. Dakota Kai says, "What you call a blessing, I call bias bullshit." Vita and Mickie look at one another. "Dakota, here you are, the Legacy Women's World Champion, and here I am, not." The fans boo. You know what I find interesting, though? The first episode of Slam, first ever episode, mind you, I defeated you in the ring, Mickie. Back to the mat. 1, 2, 3. The fans boo as Dakota begins to get aggressive. And yet, there you went. Championship opportunity. And at home I sat, watching you at Bash at the Beach. But hey, I get it. There's nothing to get, says Mickie, and Dakota goes on. She says, you're right. I mean, had I been me in that position, I would have been me walking away with the championship. Mickie smirks, knowing Dakota is trying to bait her into a championship match, but doesn't care anyways. Mickie says, "You know what, Dakota? You're actually right. You did beat me. You did defeat me, and yet here I am, here I still stand, the Legacy Women's World Champion." The fans cheer. "But I plan on being a fighting champion, you see, and I'm not one for excuses. So how about tonight, you and me, Mickie James and Dakota Kai, go one-on-one for the Women's World Championship?" Vita raises her eyebrows as Dakota is somewhat surprised but happy. Dakota walks away nodding as the camera leans. The main event set, Mickie James is defending the Legacy Women's World Championship against Dakota Kai. 79 out the gate. Let's get after it, guys. It's going to be a good show. Alright, next up, we're going to ringside. The camera opens up with our usual. Morrow says, "We just saw one heck of a start to the show, and it's been confirmed that our main event is going to be the Legacy Women's World Champion Mickie James defending against Dakota Kai." Aaron Stevens says Mickie James is going to be a fighting champion. We know this, but Dakota Kai out the gate, that's a test for anyone. Morrow said, "You aren't lying, Aaron, but let's get straight ahead and straight into the action to Slam." The camera fades out, breaking us into the show. An 81% final score, Morrow and Aaron Stevens at the ringside to open up the show. So an 81% with Morrow and Aaron Stevens at the announce booth to open it up. The opening match of the night sees Dominik Dijakovic in a 54% 3-star match overall, defeating Mike Bailey. Dijakovic was made to look like a threat in this match, and it helped their popularity. Popularity bumps throughout for everyone, and Dominik Dijakovic, as I said, got the victory over Mike Bailey here tonight. So just a little rehab for Dominik Dijakovic, and no big deal here. Next, after that, though, we have Dijakovic in the ring cutting a promo. He basically holds up the number 1 with his hands to a 63. So we're trying to rehab. I really like Dominik Dijakovic. I think he can be a pretty good player here in Legacy Wrestling, and we're going to keep pushing it and seeing what happens as we go forward. Hopefully, it turns into something. 63. Alright, next up we have Brian Cage defeating Tucker Troutwine in not in 3 minutes, in 2 minutes. 53% overall. The match quality was a 3-star. The audience was into this. They went over the top, but Brian Cage with a squash match here tonight. Brian Cage also on the path to rebuild. We're trying to see who we're going to stick with going forward. Brian Cage is one of the names I'm leaning towards, and we'll just see how he takes and how his popularity goes off and if the Legacy universe really enjoys him. Alright, next up we see Claudio Castagnoli. The production quality was well above. It was 100. That's great. A clip airs centered around Claudio Castagnoli, your Legacy World Champion, saying he'll be here next week, and it's really just kind of focusing on him beating Killer Cross in the opening, in one of the opening matches at Bash at the Beach after Marty Scurll got hurt, and then showing him defeating Johnny Gargano to win that championship. So 100 for Claudio Castagnoli. AEW, I booked him first. Darn it. But a 100 for Claudio. Let's go ahead and keep going forward here. And in the next match, JC Jane wins, 55% overall, 2-star. Match wasn't great. Taryn Terrell dropped a bit throughout. JC Jane got up quite a bit. The announcing was good. The in-ring work of Mike Chioda was good as well. 55%, not great, but it's a women's match here on a first after the pay-per-view event as we're continuing to build going forward in this second set of tapings that go through to our next pay-per-view, which will be Halloween Havoc. 55%. Next, we get a recap showing Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood being attacked at the Bash of the Beach by Akam and Razor, the Legion of Pain. Basically, yeah, man, it shows them hitting them after during the match with the ref bump happening and helping the Insanity, Axel and Damo to basically secure the championships. So 69% overall. just recapping Akam and Razor distracting and hitting Cash and Dax to cause FTR the unfortunate loss at the pay-per-view. All right, 69 here. All right, next up, we have the Von Erichs getting the victory over the Young Guns, Ethan Allen and Luke Jacobs, to 2.5-star quality, 55. The crowd was red hot for this one. Popularity bumps throughout as an 8-minute match goes the way of the Von Erichs. Marshall and Ross, as you recall, Ross got the coin flip challenge, or whatever you want to say, the rock, paper, scissors challenge over the 1 and 2 challenge over Marshall. He lost in the first round to Marty Scurll. Since then, they've been kind of quiet, but now that we're into the second set of tapings, we're really going to start pushing them back up towards the top of the tag team division and see what we can do with the Von Erich boys, at least out the gate. So 55% overall here. Let's keep it going. All right, next up, we see a highlight package. We get a highlight package of a pair of matches next week. We're going to get Deonna Purrazzo taking on Tegan Nox and Brian Cage taking on Jeff Cobb in the main event. That's a 100, surprisingly. We got a small popularity boost throughout. Production quality was good. The good looks of Tegan Nox added to the story beat. Well, thank you, Tegan. So, yeah, so basically 2 matches next week on the card announced. Deonna Purrazzo and Tegan Nox, as well as Brian Cage and Jeff Cobb. That's a 100. All right. Next up, we have the split screen action of Dakota Kai and Mickie James walk into the ring for the championship title defense. Dakota Kai, Mickie James. Who will be your Legacy Women's World Champion? We're about to find out. And in the main event, the crowd was red hot to a 4-star 62. The DQ finisher at the match. The refereeing work of Mike Cody was good. Mickie James gets the victory, gets the win. She retains her championship thanks to the interference by Mercedes Martinez attacking Mickie James after having lost to her at Legacy's Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. So it's 62. We're going to end it this way. I kind of want to keep going with the Dakota storyline with Mickie James, basically pushing forward with Mercedes and Mickie, adding Dakota to the storyline. So Mickie James will get a successful retention and a successful defense here. 62 final score. It was a very good match quality. The workers were really good. Obviously, we got to work on getting them over. But, yeah, so everyone continue to get over here. Let's go ahead and see what we ended episode 9 here. 74 was Bash at the Beach. One of the 62 is our lowest rating yet. That's unfortunate, but we did have a couple squash matches, but we did hype a lot of stuff for next week, and we did build stuff for next week. I have the next 4 shows completely built out. Matches a little more competitive than this week. Obviously, the first week's back, you're kind of recapping what just happened at the last event and kind of building towards the future. But, yeah, man, I guess until then, it's me, Mikey, bro. This was Slam Legacy Wrestling, Season 1, Episode 9. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back shortly here with Episode 10 as we continue down the path of Legacy Wrestling, and we can present to you some more wrestlers as they become available, and hopefully really hot shot some angles and get into the meat of it. It's always hard when you're starting a save, getting out of the doldrums and really starting to build people, but I think we did a pretty decent job out the gate. The first set of tapings, which is what I call basically through the first set of pay-per-viewing, we really set up quite a bit. We started stuff. We ended a couple, but really 3 or 4 of them carried over into the next set of tapings. We'll have a Super Slam, I'm going to be calling it, which will be in between our event. Kind of think of AEW's, Blood and Guts or whatever you want to say. Their mid-quarterly specials heading into their event. So we'll have one of those coming up. But until next time, as I said, it's me, Mikey Bro, wishing you a glorious rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.